The December 17th, 2024 regular Planning Commission meeting is now open. May we have roll call, please?
Chair Joan Stewart,
Here.
Vice Chair Heidi Zamora is absent. Commissioner John Dinan,
Here.
Commissioner Michael Alterman,
Here.
and Commissioner Basso is absent. So we have our alternate Commissioner Steve Link
Here.
and our alternate Commissioner Ben Rubin.
Thank you. Moving on to conflict of interest. Any planning commission member or staff who has a direct conflict of interest on any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare their conflict at this time. And at this time, I must declare my conflict, and I'm handing the gavel over.
Thank you, John. Are there any other commissioners that want to declare a conflict of interest tonight? Okay. Moving on to public comments. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission Board. Individual comments will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, or as stated by the presiding officer, and time cannot be yielded to any other person. Under state law, matters presented during the public comment period cannot be discussed or acted upon. For record purposes, state your name and city of residence, and please make your comments directly to the Planning Commission members. Do we have any public comments tonight? The public may comment on the item that's on the agenda at the time we get to that item. Anything else, any item that's not on the agenda that the public wishes to comment on, now's the time. Yeah. Yes, please. Come up to the podium.
About the water safety we have.
Okay, could you give us your name and city of residence, please?
Norma Rauza, Riverbank, California.
Thank you.
So our water, it's pretty bad. We've gotten notices throughout the, off and on about how bad the water is, that we can't drink it, can't boil it. Is there anything that city could do about providing water, since we're paying so much for water anyway?
We're not allowed to comment on anything that's brought up at this period of time, but it's on the record.
Okay, thank you. Just be known.
Welcome. Moving on to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are to be acted upon by a single action of the Planning Commission Board unless requested by an individual planning commissioner, commission member, or member of the public for special consideration. Otherwise, a recommendation of staff will be accepted and acted upon by motion of the Planning Commission Board. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. Get a second, please.
I'll second that.
Get a roll call vote, please.
Okay, Chair Dinan,
Yes.
Commissioner Alterman,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubin,
Here.
or yes,
Yes.
and Commissioner Link.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Moving on to item 3.1, Architecture and Site Plan Review 08-2024, Tentative Parcel Map 02-2024, and Conditional Use Permit 01-2024, Department File 24-0025 and 26-TSC/Patterson Road Retail Site. And we're ready for staff to make their report. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, Chair. Michael Arroyo, Contract Planner with the City of Riverbank, Associate Planner with JB Anderson Land Use Planning. So before you this evening, as Chair brought out, is a multi-pronged project that includes an application for an architectural and site plan review. Excuse me, a tentative parcel map and a conditional use permit. The property is located along Patterson Road, and it is identified by its assessor parcel numbers on the screen. It's made up of 2 parcels. So again, the proposed project includes an architecture and site plan review. As proposed is a 23,729 square foot retail building. That includes a 20,000 square foot enclosed outdoor display area. This will be occupied by the anchor tenant Tractor Supply, as well as an adjacent connected 16,000 square foot retail building. The project also includes 2 quick service restaurants that will be developed at a later date. So the architecture design being considered this evening will not cover that. The approval of that will be handled at a later date at an administrative and staff level, approved by the Community Development Director. So again, it's the 2 retail buildings, the outdoor display area, the site plan, the layout, and the landscape. It just encompasses the architecture and site plan review entitlement that's being sought for approval this evening. The tentative parcel map, as stated at the outset, the subject property is made up of two parcels, that together comprise approximately 6.3 acres in size. So the tentative parcel map is the mechanism which you'll be able to subdivide those from 2 parcels to 4 parcels. Ultimately, the intent is to separate the uses onto their own parcels. So 4 uses proposed and 4 separate parcels by way of that tentative parcel map. And finally, application for a conditional use permit. The use permit is to allow sales of alcoholic beverages for off-site consumption only. So here we have the city's zoning map, the city's general plan map, as well as a vicinity map of the subject property. The subject property is outlined in red. The arrows point to the top one points to the city's zoning district, C2, general commercial. And of course, the community commercial general plan land use designation is what the subject property has. On the large map, you'll notice that there are existing and similar uses which surround the subject property. That's because this zoning district and this general plan land use designation, that's the intent of the commercial zoning district and the land use designation. It's been analyzed for traffic impacts through the city's general plan EIR and environmental impacts for these types of land uses. So the type of project being considered, it fits with both the zoning district, allowed uses, and the general plan land use designation. So here we can see how, here we see the general layout for the site, or for the area on that map, but here we see how the project itself will fit more specifically with the site and surrounding areas. You'll note that there are 2 separate points of access that lead from Patterson Road. That's in part due to the applicant's close work with Caltrans to ensure that this meets their standards, both for safety and access, not only for those visiting the site, but also for travelers along Patterson Road. Excuse me. You'll also notice the storm retention basin located on the southwest, as that's a condition of approval to manage stormwater. And you'll notice that the subject property backs to the residential zoning district. So as a part of this project, an 8-foot CMU wall will be conditioned to ultimately separate the residential and commercial uses. And here you see the layout. So the 2 quick service restaurants will be reviewed at a later date. So primary focus is the Tractor Supply, the site layout, parking, and the retail building that will be adjacent to it. One thing to note, actually, I have another slide for the conditional use permit, but just make note of that, that retail building that is not marked with Tractor Supply. That's the, very nice, thank you, the retail 16,000 square foot retail building, which the tenant is to be determined. So the applicant for this evening is seeking a conditional use permit for that property alone. It's tied to that retail building. So here we have our first look at the proposed architecture. Here at the top, you have a color elevation for both Tractor Supply and that 16,000 square foot retail building. Outlined in red, excuse me, is the 20,000 square foot outdoor display area, which is, if you're familiar with Tractor Supply, they typically have that you can, see and look into what's offered and also visit the outside of what's offered. And then you have your south elevation and your west elevation. So on the right is the color palette proposed for both the retail structure, the 16,000 retail building, as well as the Tractor Supply. This here is the 16,000 square foot retail building on its own. So as a part of the project, it will have a proposed monument sign that will be located along that center drive aisle. The intent is to have 4 tenants. So you'll have a monument sign that has 4 panels representing each tenant. 2 variations of the monuments proposed. And again, on your lower right side, you see again that condition of approval to separate those uses, commercial and residential, the 8-foot CMU wall that will be erected on the property's southern boundary. And so here is the second component of the project this evening. It's the tentative parcel map. So tried to make it a little bit easier to read for the commission this evening and the public, of course. But we see, as stated previously, the existing property is comprised of 2 parcels. So this is the mechanism to subdivide the existing properties into 4 parcels to separate those different uses. So lot one is proposed to be 0.64 acres. Lot 2 is 0.58 acres. And lot 3, and those were, those were where the QSRs or quick service restaurants will be proposed at a later date. Lot 3 is the largest of the 4. And that's where you'll have the anchor tenant, Tractor Supply, the large 23,700 square foot building with the outdoor display area on lot 3. And then finally, lot 4 is just under 2 acres, which will be comprised of that 16,000 square foot retail building. Just 1 second, I need to double check. I have another slide. So for the final entitlement the applicant is seeking this evening is for a conditional use permit. So within the city of Riverbank, regardless of zoning district, the retail sale of alcoholic beverages requires a conditional use permit. The project proponent, is seeking approval for a conditional use permit to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages for off-site consumption only. Now, this conditional use permit is strictly tied to this 16,000 square foot retail building. So no conditional use permit is effects or tied to any of the other parcels. And so finally, as it relates to CEQA, staff has determined that the appropriate level of environmental analysis is met and qualifies for an exemption pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15315, which is the infill development, and section 15061B3, which is the common sense exemption. This project is consistent with the city's adopted general plan in a number of ways. First, you have design 10.4 and there was another design one, excuse me, but I left it out. But 10.4 policy with the city's general plan to incorporate innovative site design, trees, landscaping, and pedestrian paths. And in fact, that's one thing I failed to mention is that the applicant, in coordination with city staff, has agreed to develop a meandering path extending from the sidewalk where Estelle terminates. The sidewalk is where the meandering trail will begin and to allow connectivity from the neighborhood to the developed site. Policy Land 2.4 is to encourage the reuse of vacant and underutilized land or infill development. So if you guys are all very familiar with the city of Riverbank, these are both properties that have sat vacant and underutilized, right? So this project is super consistent. And finally, circulation, I'll skip to that. City will not allow large unbroken surface parking lots inhibiting travel on foot and bicycles. So we have four different uses proposed, and we'll have an access agreement throughout for all uses within the development. So staff's recommendation to the Planning Commission this evening, there are 3 resolutions, and I'll make a clarification for the first and second resolution. So the recommendation is first to adopt resolution number 2024-09. This would approve the architecture and site plan review, ASPR 0824. So just clarify, it was an administrative clerical error for the resolution. I only included the architectural submittal as Exhibit A. So this is just ensuring that the Exhibit B, which is included in your staff report packet and resolution, that those standard conditions that are sort of a coverall that protect city's interests is also included as an exhibit to that adopting resolution. So if you approve that resolution, that is included in the adopting resolution. And similarly with the resolution 2410, just that exhibit that was left off the resolution is Exhibit C. So that is just reiterating and reminding Commission that if you would approve or adopt these resolutions, that those exhibits are included as part of those adopting resolutions. But thank you. Finally, myself, Mr. Josh Mann, Community Development Director, are here to answer any questions, as well as the applicant, Mr. Brad Sobel, and his engineers, architects, et cetera. So if you have any questions.
Are there any questions from the commission?
I got a couple. So just to be clear, the 16,000 square foot retail space, which doesn't have a tenant yet, that structure is being built with the Tractor Supply Center at the same time. So they'll match architecture and color palette and all that.
Yes, absolutely. Commissioner, essentially, yeah, that's the purpose of the architectural site plan review is for those structures that will be developed and built at the same time. And additionally, sorry, just to cut you off, it's just to ensure to ensure consistency and conformity with the future development that will be at the discretion of development director. So that's how that will be executed, excuse me.
Okay, perfect. Next thing I noted, there's 2 access points from the highway there, and I know that there's a whole Caltrans process to go through for that. I have a little just question. Has any traffic study been done as far as how those left turn lanes and the medians are going to interact? Currently, I see lots of people entering the left turn lane that is intended for turning left to the north side of the highway so they could turn left into the Dutch Brothers, which is not how that's supposed to work. Is there any offsite plan currently part of this or any condition to straighten out striping or anything with that to make sure that the traffic motions don't cause more conflict?
For sure. Yeah. So Mr. Mann can speak more to this, but I know that there is a current project separate from this project before you that is extending that median in the middle of Patterson Road. And to your second question, that there in fact was a traffic study done for this project. It wasn't included as a part of this, is what was proposed, and that was just a little bit deviated. The entrance was pushed a little further east, I believe, but the applicants can speak to that most definitely.
Sure.
But this was approved by Caltrans
Okay.
district.
Perfect. I don't want to domineer the whole thing. Just notes I took. That was that one. On the northeast side there, I realize there's the existing parcel there adjoining it, the rear end shop, and that's there, and that's been there for quite a while. Has any consideration been made as to how, if in the future that parcel sells, somebody wishes to redevelop, how that's going to tie to this existing parking area? And I ask the question because the shopping center to the west, where the Dollar Tree and the CVS, et cetera, there are 3 planned openings that would connect through to the property to the east. But when the Dutch Brothers was built, 2 of those were blocked. And the 3rd one in the back now will be blocked by the storm drain basin. So I'm just curious to how that,
For sure.
if it's, we're forward looking on that for what's going to happen in the future there.
Most definitely. It's a very important question. With respect to that parcel, it is not a part of the project. However, the improvements along the eastern boundary of the project site are not temporary. They could be manipulated in the future so as to provide access potentially should there be future development to the east. So there can be, and again, the applicant's team can speak more to the design elements of that.
Okay, no, thank you. Those are my questions I had.
Any other questions from the commission? I have one. The conditional use permit for the sale of alcohol, we don't know who the vendor might be. Is it normal to have a conditional use permit put in practice before we even know who the vendor is going to be that's going to sell the off-site booze?
Sure, no, I mean, that's typically not how you would function this, but sort of being proactive and forward thinking. Essentially, the intent was to provide, and this is also consistent with the city's general plan to provide flexibility and innovative, development, is to essentially allow the applicant to obtain that entitlement so as to provide more flexibility and ensuring that this brand new building is occupied, that it doesn't sit vacant. So essentially, there could be a tenant that doesn't necessarily need that conditional use permit, but it does, however, provide flexibility. So essentially, we're expediting the process. Of course, all conditional use permits, keyword is conditional, such that if they aren't adhering to the conditions of approval that are tied to this conditional use permit, it can be revoked.
Got it. Any other questions?
Actually, I was going to follow up on that. So if I understand correctly, the conditional use permit is just us saying, yeah, if in the future somebody wants to sell those there, we'll allow it. They would still have to obtain the necessary licensing through the state board.
Yes, sir, exactly.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, thank you.
I will open it for public comments. I have here a letter to be read during the public comment period. Does staff have a comment before I start this?
Chair Diane, I spoke with Randy Brecky this afternoon. He submitted this letter. He wasn't able to make it this evening, so I told him that I would relay both a copy to the commissioners and also I'd be willing to read it in public forum. So letter starts off with Chairperson and fellow commissioners. My name is Randy Brecky for Brecky Real Estate, and I'm delivering this statement on behalf of my client, the Grant family, who owns a 7-acre parcel adjacent to the applicant's project on the east side. We are pleased that the retail development is proposed on the adjacent set lift parcel, and think it should foster future interest in development for the Grant parcel. Of note to us, on the proposed tractor supply development plan before you this evening for approval is the right-in, right-out access. In the past, we were told by city planners that primary access to and from all contiguous commercial zone parcels in this location on the south side of Highway 108, Patterson Road, would be a signalized intersection at Estelle Avenue. That would provide full turn movements. Also, all of these contiguous commercial parcels were to have reciprocal access to facilitate traffic flow and minimize the number of curb cuts and traffic in and outs on Highway 108. I mentioned this not as an objection to the applicant's plan for the adjacent parcel, but merely to make this distinction and state for the public record this deviation from what has been the position of the City of Riverbank Planning Department. As stated before, we have no objection to the applicant's plan and welcome anything that will advance our goal to develop the grant parcel. We simply request that if the City of Riverbank approves the applicant's proposed development of the set lift property, that the city will in turn provide written assurance to the grant family partners that when our grant parcel is developed, it will be granted the same approval for right-in, right-out access only if requested. If future plan for development of the grant parcel includes access via the Estelle Avenue intersection, then the grant family partners will work with Tom Ward, the owner of the small adjoining parcel that fronts Highway 108 and borders the Estelle Avenue intersection, point of connection, to ensure the access lines up with the Estelle Avenue intersection. However, like the application before you this evening, if access via Estelle Avenue signalized intersection is not necessary or wanted by us for future development of the grant parcel, and then proposed development plan is right-in, right-out access only, then the grant family partnership deserves and requests assurances to be given the same consideration as the city gives to the applicant. Thank you, Randy Brecky, Brecky Real Estate Incorporated.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments on this action item? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say that I can't, nobody's contacted me about making that signal light go or make any offers to me about doing it. I think it's ludicrous. I've been told the same thing Randy has, that it always had to be the ingress. We always knew we were gonna have to move. The rent shop, I always knew that was the thing. And if they don't want to do it, it just looks kind of silly, and what's gonna happen with the traffic flow is kind of ridiculous. They're gonna come out of that and go over 2 lanes and make a U-turn. They're gonna come back on U-turns. Really, the signal light needs to happen. I've never opposed it. I've worked with Randy. I had it in contract with Randy. He was gonna purchase my place, and it was a good offer at the time. I don't know why they're not contacting me to do this. It's just, I don't understand. So if the city doesn't want it, and Caltrans says it's okay, does Caltrans know what other business are going in next to the Tractor Supply? How much traffic's really gonna go in and out of that Tractor Supply leaves, and all of a sudden there's more traffic with a different business going in on a right in, right out? It's not good for the city not to have that signal light, so that's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments on this item? Hearing none. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Brad Sobel, the applicant, and I'd be happy to answer any additional questions if you may have any. We're very excited about this project in Riverbank, and I've been a Tractor Supply preferred developer for 10 years now. My father and I is our company, family company, small company. We have built 13 Tractor Supplies across California, and this would be number 14. In cases where we can't find a certain parcel size for tractor, we start to look for other opportunities that we can incorporate tractor into and build something that is very appealing for the city. And I think, and that is the case here. We think that this is a terrific project, and Tractor is very excited about coming to Riverbank. I wanted to just mention a couple things. I took a couple notes. First of all, the cross-access question on the east side of us. If I'm not sure I know what I'm doing though. Okay. Yeah. So the way that the project is designed on the east side of the property. Yes, thank you. Up there, there's two sort of cross access points. One is that where the cursor is now, that runs parallel to Patterson Road. across the front of Tractor Supply and across the front of that retail building. That is a potential cross-access point that could connect to whatever develops to the east of us. And also, well, we're sort of splitting in between. So there's two drive aisles. The one a little bit further up, right there. So, well, here, let me. So right here, this is the main entrance to the project right here in the center. And this first drive aisle going across parallel to Patterson Road. So right here is a potential cross-access point that could connect to potentially whatever develops to the east. And down here is another drive aisle that goes across the Tractor Supply building and the retail building next door. And that right here is a potential cross-access point to whatever develops over to the east. So that would allow traffic, as stated earlier, to be able to go from one center to the other without going back onto Patterson and impacting traffic. So we're open to, we as the ownership are open to allowing that cross-access, but we don't have anything to install there. It would have to be handled on the east side, whatever gets developed there, that they would have to line up their driveway in an appropriate spot to allow for that cross-access to take place. I wanted to mention one other thing about Caltrans and the process that we've gone through with Caltrans. Originally, prior to Dutch Brothers coming to Riverbank, there was left turn access into the residential properties that were right there that was allowed on Patterson. However, when Dutch Bros went in, Caltrans took that left turn access away. And as I heard, I guess there's a different project about extending the median to, I guess, go further east, although I'm not familiar with the project. So when we went to Caltrans, and it's been many months, they said, no, you can't have left turn access into the project. So we said, okay. So we designed the driveway. Our center driveway was originally over here paralleling our east property line, and we had the drive coming out here. So there would be one drive access point there, and then the existing Dutch Bros access point to the project. And Caltrans said, no, we don't like that. If you want to have access, you need to move your other driveway to the center of your project. So that's what we did. And so we have, as stated previously, no left turn access in or out of the site. And we have right in, right out only at both drives. There was a question brought up previously about the conditional use permit for the sale of alcohol for off-site consumption and sort of, who that tenant potentially could be. Is that something that the city would like? Is it something that maybe the city doesn't like? There's restrictions in the deals that we do with Tractor Supply about what type of uses can be permitted within our shopping center. And there's a long list of prohibited uses that would be sort of detrimental uses to our shopping center as a whole, and uses that, we would not like to see that are not appropriate, that really just don't fit with the type of project that we're doing. We do very first-class projects. We make deals with first-class tenants, and the center is designed. The prototypical Tractor Supply building is just a painted block building, a very flat face across the whole front of it. I'm sure you guys have probably seen that, and with a metal awning, and that's it. We have come in with some architecture that we thought really is a nice fitting for Riverbank with batten and batten board. and sort of kind of fits in with the rural aspect of what we think, you know, reflects well in Riverbank. As mentioned, just to talk about it, yes, we're going as required by code. We're going to be installing on our south property line an 8-foot high tall cinder block, CMU block wall, which will separate the residential area from the commercial area. We've been very careful, given our previous history with other projects about, you know, learning from mistakes. And we've been very careful about how close the back of the buildings are to our southern property line. Realizing that when we're in a residential, you know, backing up to residential, that can be, you know, a very sensitive issue with sound and with lighting. And so we have designed the project to have significant distances from the back of the building to what would be the new wall. And the closest would be Tractor Supply. The back of Tractor Supply would be 63 feet away from that block wall. And the other building minimum distance away is 115 feet. By comparison, if you look at the center directly to the west, the closest building is 33 feet from that wall, as well as 44 feet and 60 feet and 46 feet. They do have two portions that are 111 feet, but those are, you know, relative to the rest of the center, it's pretty minimal in terms of that. That center is very close to the property line there. So I think that's it as far as, I don't know if that generated any additional questions.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Continuing on with the public hearing of this item, are there any other public comments? Hearing none.
My name is Olivia Fernandez, and I'm one of the residents that lives behind what is being planned. And I just wanted to know, are you going to have a certain time for the business, the noise level, the garbage, when things pick up compared to what's happening in the residential area? Because I know on the west side, the CVS area, and that it does get loud even to where we are. We can hear quite a bit of it. So that's my concern right now, is the schedule of pickups and drop-offs, garbages, anything of that matter. So
Staff have any comment on that? Is there anything in the paperwork that restricts?
So
those type-
there is restrictions on, the city does have noise ordinance that restricts certain construction activities between certain hours. Not sure about trash collection or you know, delivery, truck hours. The commission certainly, it's within their rights to condition the project where they cannot have deliveries during certain hours. Tom, are you aware of any requirements in terms of, you know, waste pickup?
Pardon me, no, we generally do it on a project basis, in my experience. But so as Josh said, that can be a condition if you so choose.
Thank you. We've got that on the record. Thank you, man.
So I'd like to speak to that because that does come up a lot. We completely understand it. And we're open to having some condition about delivery hours. And typically what we see is from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. are permitted hours, knowing that the actual business is closed before then. Tractor Supply stays open until 9 p.m. Typically, there are no deliveries at Tractor Supply in the evening hours. Typically, they happen more in the morning and afternoon. And same with trash. But we're not, if that makes people feel more comfortable, we're not opposed to that.
Thank you.
Brecky's probably not gonna have the funding to do that alone. Basically, when he goes to develop and he wants his right in, right out. And if the signal light doesn't go through, the rear end shop's gonna be there, not be funded basically to where we can get another location. We'll be there forever. This goes through, so. And there is easement on the one side of their development where my entrance is. A small easement, 3 foot onto their piece that can't be touched either. That's our ingress regress.
Thank you. At this time, I depend on staff as far as the option of restrictions on noises. I don't think this commission is prepared to put anything like that in place tonight.
Now would be the time to apply a certain condition if the commission felt it's appropriate. You know, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the applicant's amenable to a condition like that. So it'd just be, you know, something that the planning commission needs to decide.
I'd say that 7 to 10 is probably the thing I see the most in other projects in other cities.
I was gonna add, so there's nothing specific in the city code that would provide specific guidance on this? Like, you know, I know there's noise ordinances in general, but there's nothing specific speaking to this?
Nothing specific to delivery vehicles or material deliveries.
Thank you. Any other public comments at this time? I would entertain a motion to approve these resolutions pursuant to noise limitation of 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Can I get a motion?
Me real quick, just want to clarify. So the deliveries would have to happen between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m.
Correct.
And I believe that's the same restrictions the trash company has to begin with. They don't pick up trash before 7 in the morning. They know it's
They
not
do at
allowed.
my house.
I know they're not supposed to, but
But this would also include deliveries. Can I get that motion?
yeah, but is that a separate motion to add it? Or,
No, it's just an additional condition.
Alone motion.
Good.
We would approve these recommendations as long as there's a noise restriction between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m.
So this will be approval for resolution 2024-009, 010, and 011. So do I
I
have
have
a
no motion
first?
yet.
I'll move to approve the items as stated with the additional restriction of the noise from between
and I'll second that.
7 and 10.
Okay. Roll call. Chair Dinan,
Yes,
Commissioner Alterman,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubin,
Yes.
Commissioner Link,
Yes.
and it passes 4-0.
thank you, Janet. And hearing no other public comments, I will close the public comment period. Take these recommendations one by one. Can I do them all? I stand corrected. I'll accept the motion to approve the adoption of resolution 2024-009, 2024-010, and resolution number 011 approving a conditional use permit, CUP 01-2024.
Yeah, we had already, wasn't that the vote we just took there? Yes. So that was what we voted on. Yeah, we got it.
What we voted on was the noise resolution. Not, well,
That was a condition of approval for the item as
Oh,
a
we're
whole.
good.
We're good. Yeah, you're good.
thank you. Moving on, are there any planning commission comments? Is there any county referral or correspondence?
No county referral or correspondence tonight.
Any staff comments?
Yes, Chair Diane, I just wanted to add, as we move into the new year, we do have a couple of projects on the horizon. If the commission remembers, we had an item continued last meeting, which is a parcel map that required an exception due to the configuration of the parcel. That project, staff has received an amended parcel map for that project, and we fully expect that to be heard at January 21st Planning Commission hearing. Other than that, staff has been doing some prep work. We have an Airbnb ordinance that we'll be preparing to get in front of the commission as the new year hits. We also have a tiny home development on the east side of town that we should see fairly soon, as well as a few little parcel maps, residential parcel maps. In addition to that, I can share with you, I've just in general been getting a lot of development interest in the city, been getting a lot of phone calls, both from residential and commercial developers. So I expect to see quite a few projects in the new year. That concludes my comments for this evening. Thank you.
You. The beat goes on. And with that, I'll adjourn the planning commission meeting. Thank you all for coming.
We were